everyone, Novels Wonderland here. Thank you all for the love and support you've shown me and the channel.
DanMachi, is it wrong for a mafia boss to go to the dungeon? Chapter 69 to 80, Chapter 69, Spartan Tutor. 978 words. Want to read ahead? Join my Patreon for just $7 to get early access to all upcoming chapters. Patreon.com/negative-translations. Chapter 69, Spartan Tutor. Powered by the bizarre awakening of the dying will bullet, Bell tore across the landscape toward Melon at blinding speed. Melon was a bustling port town situated along the shores of Lake Lalag, a massive brackish lake connected to the sea. Every day, countless ships from foreign nations docked there, unloading imported goods while taking on Orario's exports to trade across the world. Yuu. Kaya Ia. W. What the hell is that? P. Pervert. There's a pervert sprinting at top speed. Bell charged straight through the streets of Melon like a runaway freight train. The sudden appearance of a half-naked man with a blazing forehead and a demonic grimace sent the townspeople into absolute panic. Around Lake Lalag. Njord Sama, we can handle the rest of this, a Familia member offered. I'm the one who made this stuff. It's only natural I dispose of it myself, replied a shirtless man with messy brown hair and a towel draped around his neck, pushing a heavy cart stacked high with sacks. This man was Njord, the patron deity of the maritime and fishing-focused Njord Familia. As the god of fishing, he had a warm personality and deeply loved the children of the lower world. Melon's booming fishing industry was largely due to the Njord Familia's operations. The fish they caught were sold not only in Melon, but across the markets of Orario. Simply put, without the Njord Familia, Orario wouldn't be able to enjoy fresh seafood. Whatever the reason, I went and did this behind your backs. Let me at least do this much. Njord Sama. Despite being a fishing familia, their operations had recently been plagued by aquatic monsters eating their catches and claiming the lives of their crew members. Desperate for a solution, Njord had engineered a special powder to act as bait. Unfortunately, the powder's nature was highly unethical. Its existence had recently been exposed, but considering his good intentions, his punishment was limited to a strict ban on using the powder. Chastised, Njord had sworn off such shortcuts and resolved to conduct their fishing operations properly from now on. What's with all the racket in town? Njord paused, wiping sweat from his brow. A thunderous, rapidly approaching noise caught his attention. Yuu. W. What the hell is that? Suddenly, a half-naked man with a demonic expression burst out from the town and came barreling toward him. Njord stared in total shock. Without shedding a fraction of his momentum, Bell vaulted off the docks and plunged headfirst into Lake Lalag. He immediately began swimming across the vast body of water at a terrifying speed. Hey! Come back. The monsters will eat you alive. Even if the monsters outside Orario were weaker than the ones in the dungeon, fighting underwater was a completely different story. Even an adventurer with a fauna was practically helpless in the water, making them easy prey for aquatic beasts. Njord frantically screamed for Bell to return, but the boy was already too far gone. So that's where he went. Whoa! Did that baby just talk? Reborn strolled up to the docks, completely unbothered by the chaos. Njord jumped back, thoroughly spooked by the articulate infant. Leon, Reborn called out. The chameleon resting on Reborn's fedora leaped toward the lake. Mid-air, it rapidly expanded and shifted its form, transforming seamlessly into a fully functional motorboat. This was Leon, Reborn's shape-shifting chameleon partner. He could perfectly replicate the form and function of any object he had seen before. Hey! What do you think you're doing? Ignoring Njord's protests, Reborn hopped into the chameleon-turned motorboat, revved the engine, and sped off across the lake in hot pursuit of Bell. Meanwhile, Bell had already crossed the lake and was now swimming out into the open sea. Suddenly, the brilliant flame on Bell's forehead extinguished. He blinked, shaking his head as his consciousness abruptly snapped back to reality. The ocean. And why am I dressed like this? Bell frantically treaded water, completely bewildered as to why he was floating in the middle of the sea in nothing but his underwear. You ran out here yourself. Seems like you instinctively knew what you needed to do, Reborn called out. Reborn-san. What is going on? Reborn's motorboat pulled up alongside the panicked adventurer. He held up a strange bullet adorned with a flame emblem between his thumb and forefinger. Bell stared at it, utterly lost. Anyone shot in the head with this dies once, then resurrects with the dying will to resolve whatever they regretted right before death. The effect lasts for 5 minutes. Wait a minute. What if I didn't have any regrets? You would have stayed dead. That's for sure. The blood drained from Bell's face as the sheer horror of Reborn's words sunk in. You should worry more about your surroundings, Reborn pointed out coolly. Prompted by Reborn, Bell looked around. Disturbing ripples were forming on the water's surface as aquatic monsters began to close in on him. This is the first step of your training. Swim to the opposite shore, with your dying will. Wait, Reborn-san. Without another word, Reborn spun the motorboat around and sped back toward the distant shore. Bell thrashed in the water, completely abandoned in the middle of the ocean. The monsters were inching closer by the second. Yoa-aya. Sensing imminent death, Bell began to swim frantically toward the shore. His movements were heavily restricted in the water, he had no weapons, and his firebolt was completely useless submerged. His only option was to swim for his life. I am gonna die. I'm going to die before the war game even starts. Support this fanfic by leaving positive review, comments, and power stones. For advanced chapters, patreon.com/negative translations. Chapter 70, Second Step. 1,423 words. Want to read ahead? Join my Patreon for just $7 to get early access to all upcoming chapters. Patreon.com/negative translations. Chapter 70, Second Step. After swimming desperately for 30 excruciating minutes, Bell finally reached the shoreline. Ha! He dragged himself up the rocky beach and collapsed face-first into the dirt, gasping for air. And now I understand what Suna meant about regretting this. The training had barely begun, and Bell was already at death's door. Suna's cryptic warnings now made perfect, terrifying sense. What are you doing slacking off? Gah! Reborn ruthlessly kicked the utterly exhausted Bell in the ribs, sending him tumbling right back into the shallow water. You're the one who said you wanted to get stronger. Go back out there and beat them. No. That's impossible. Then do it with your dying will. Wait. Just wait a sec. Die once and be reborn. Reborn mercilessly fired another dying will bullet point blank into Bell's forehead. With a draw speed of less than 0.05 seconds, Bell couldn't even blink before the bullet struck him. Reborn. I'll defeat the monsters with my dying will. Re-entering dying will mode, Bell roared and charged back into the ocean to face the monsters barehanded. Having survived his bout with the sea monsters, Bell dragged himself out of the water once more. I took them down. Thanks to the power of the dying will bullet, Bell had somehow managed to clear the area. He reported back to Reborn, his face looking like a corpse. Good. That concludes the warm-up. Warm-up. Learning that the hell he had just endured was merely a warm-up, Bell froze in place, overcome by absolute despair. Right. Next, we head for the mountains. Ignoring Bell's shattered spirit, Reborn fired another dying will bullet into his head. Transported by his own dying will, Bell found himself in an entirely new location. Where am I? His dying will mode wore off, and Bell snapped back to his senses. This time, he was clinging to the side of a massive cliff face, hundreds of meters above the ground. Next up is cliff climbing. Why are you dressed like my goddess? And when did you even change? Hanging from a rope beside him was Reborn, now inexplicably wearing Hestia's signature white dress, complete with the blue ribbon, and a black twin-tail wig. Belle screamed internally, utterly bewildered by the sudden cosplay. By the way, there are monsters flying around this area too, so keep your eyes peeled. Eh? At Reborn's warning, Belle frantically scanned his surroundings. High above, several avian monsters were circling the thermals. They hadn't noticed him yet, but the moment they did, he'd become bird feed. Well then, climb with your dying will. Reborn casually pulled himself up the rope and disappeared over the ledge. I need to hurry. Faster. Because he was climbing a sheer cliff, both of his hands were occupied. If he didn't reach the top quickly, the monsters would spot him and dive-bomb him while he was defenseless. Realizing that one wrong move meant plummeting to his death, Belle scrambled up the rocks. But his desperate prayers went unanswered. A bird monster spotted him and swooped in from his flank, talons extended. Firebolt. Jaya. Belle threw one hand out, aiming his palm at the beast, and unleashed his no-chant magic. The bolt of fire and lightning struck the monster dead on, incinerating it instantly. However, OCRA. The sudden recoil and shifting of his weight caused the rock his left hand was gripping to crumble. Belle peeled off the cliff face and plummeted toward the earth. Firebolt. Knowing that hitting the ground from this height would be fatal, Belle aimed a blast at the ground directly beneath him to cushion his fall. But, gah! Even with a fauna, the raw kinetic impact couldn't be entirely neutralized. A violent shockwave of pain ripped through Belle's entire body as he slammed into the dirt. You let the monster distract you, and completely forgot about your left hand. You'll never beat the Apollo Familia at this rate. Now he's my Ixama. Why do you keep changing outfits? Reborn, now dressed perfectly in Maika's attire, stood over him, casually pointing out his flaws. Belle was too confused by the wardrobe changes to even formulate a response. Still, that's a pretty handy power you've got. That what you call magic? Eh? Yeah. So between that fauna and your magic, you can mitigate the damage from a lethal fall. Which means as long as you have the stamina to cast that spell, I can keep pumping dying will bullets into you without any issues. Heh. Realizing that Belle's fall damage was drastically reduced, a truly sadistic smirk crept across Reborn's face. Hearing this twisted logic, Belle felt his soul leave his body. Die once and be reborn. From that point on, Reborn relentlessly bombarded Belle with dying will bullets, throwing him into one deadly scenario after another. Eventually, day one of Reborn's hellish boot camp came to an end, mostly because Belle's physical stamina and mental energy, mind, had completely bottomed out. Eat up. The training continues tomorrow. Why yes. Belle and Reborn sat around a campfire at the base of the cliff, roasting some wild beasts they had hunted in the forest. However, the sheer brutality of Reborn's regimen had left Belle looking visibly gaunt and hollow-eyed. Now I know exactly why Tsuna is so strong. Belle had experienced firsthand the crucible that forged Tsuna's absurd power. You know, I had Tsuna do this exact same cliff-climbing routine too, Reborn mused, taking a bite of meat. Tsuna did this too. Yeah. To build up his baseline stamina, and help him master Hyper-Dying Will mode. Hyper-Dying Will mode. That's the name of Tsuna's combat state. So that's what it's called. Which means that form really isn't from a fauna. Learning the name of Tsuna's transformation confirmed what Belle had suspected. Tsuna already possessed that power long before he came to this world. Course, our world doesn't have monsters, so he was literally just climbing a cliff. But the bullet's effect would wear off halfway up, and he'd end up plummeting to the ground over and over again. He really shot Tsuna with those bullets too. The biggest difference is that, unlike you guys, we don't have fauna in our world. Outside of his combat mode, Tsuna is literally no different from an average, completely normal civilian. Belle shouted in sheer disbelief. He couldn't fathom that someone with the physical frailty of a normal civilian had been subjected to the exact same life-threatening training he had just endured. More importantly, is your body holding up okay? Reborn asked, suddenly serious. Well, I'm incredibly exhausted, but why do you ask? It's said that if a person is shot with a dying will bullet 10 times, something terrible happens to them. Terrible. Yeah. They contract a fatal illness called the skull disease. The symptoms involve your deepest, most humiliating secrets manifesting as physical text all over your body right before you die. It's also known as the death by embarrassment disease. What the heck kind of disease is that? Does something like that really exist? The absurdity and sheer horror of the illness forced Bell to scream in protest. It does. Suna actually caught it once. By the way, I shot you exactly 10 times today. And once the symptoms manifest, you die in exactly 1 hour. Eeha. Realizing he had not only met the conditions for this horrifying disease, but was also on a 1-hour timer to his death, Bell shrieked in terror. So by all accounts, you should already be showing symptoms, but you look fine. Either you have some kind of natural resistance to the skull disease, or you're just incredibly lucky. Looks like you have an idea. Yes. When I ranked up, I acquired a development ability. It's an ability called luck. I see. I brought this along just in case, but I guess you won't be needing it. Without hesitation, Reborn casually tossed a small paper bag straight into the campfire. What is that? The prescription cure for the skull disease. What are you doing? You didn't catch it, so I figured we didn't need it. Of course we need it. It's not guaranteed that I won't catch it later. Bell. People die eventually. Stop trying to dodge the issue. Support this fanfic by leaving positive review, comments, and power stones. For advanced chapters, patreon.com/negative translations. Chapter 71, Chapter 71, Third Step. 2080 words. Want to read ahead? Join my Patreon for just $7 to get early access to all upcoming chapters. Patreon.com/negative translations. Chapter 71, Third Step. Time passed, and it was the second day of training. Ha ha. Good job, Bell. You've cleared the second step of your training. Bell had finally succeeded in scaling the sheer cliff. Reborn climbed the cliff and offered a word of appreciation to Bell, who had collapsed face down. All right, next is the third step. The training is only going to get harder from here. What is he going to make me do next? They had only completed 2 exercises so far, but the sheer brutality of them had left Bell physically and mentally exhausted. Hearing that the training would only escalate left him with nothing but anxiety over whether his body could endure it. You'd better brace yourself, Bell. If you drop your guard during this next phase, you will actually die. Die. The blood drained from Bell's face as a violent chill raced down his spine. The third step is sparring with me. Sparring? You mean I have to fight you, Reborn-san? Exactly. From here on out, I'll be personally beating you into shape. In every conceivable environment. Reborn cracked his knuckles, a joyful smile spreading across his face. I won't be using any dying will bullets for this. You're fighting me with your own strength. With that, Reborn dropped the knife and clothes he had been holding onto right in front of Bell. Change into those and get into your stance. Why yes, sir. Following Reborn's orders, Bell quickly changed into the clothes, equipping the Hestia knife in his right hand and Ushiwakamaru in his left before dropping into a combat stance. Whenever you're ready. Come at me from anywhere. He doesn't have a single opening. Reborn wasn't even taking a proper fighting stance. Yet, Bell could sense a complete lack of openings. He racked his brain for a way to break through, but no good ideas came to mind. If you aren't coming, I will. Guh. Reborn vanished. In the blink of an eye, a right straight buried itself deep into Bell's stomach. Bell collapsed to his knees, clutching his abdomen with both hands. Trying to read your opponent's guard and formulate a plan is fine, but you were so focused on looking for an opening that you left yourself completely wide open. So heavy. He's way too strong. Bell couldn't hide his shock. He hadn't expected Reborn, a man without a fauna, to possess this level of physical power. Also, I think you've got the wrong idea. I didn't have you take off your armor because it would break from a dying will bullet. I had you take it off because my attacks would shatter it to pieces anyway. Reborn casually explained the real reason he had Bell remove his armor, but Bell was in no condition to listen. Just standing back up took everything he had. I forgot to mention, but I've never lost a sparring match against Suna. Not even once. Wha? I don't know how much stronger Tsuna has gotten since receiving his fauna, but even without one myself, I'm confident I could beat him. He had no concrete proof, but Reborn was certain his own strength wasn't inferior to the current Tsuna's. Well, if he uses that, it's a different story. As Reborn spoke, the memory of Tsuna fighting Bermuda during the representative battle of the Rainbow a year ago flashed through his mind. I'll say it again. Come at me with your dying will. Otherwise, you'll be dead long before the war game even starts. Reborn unleashed his killing intent. The sheer weight of it hit Bell like a wave of physical pain, piercing his entire body like thousands of needles. Scary. He makes the Black Goliath look cute by comparison. The image of a Goliath distinct from the one that reigns as the 17th floor's floor boss flashed through Bell's mind. Gritting his teeth against the phantom pain, Bell desperately forced himself back into a combat stance. If I can't find an opening, I just have to make one. If I don't fight with the intent to kill, I'm the one who's gonna die. Though momentarily suppressed by Reborn's aura, Bell understood that hesitation meant death. Abandoning his cautious approach, he dashed around Reborn at blinding speed, trying to force an opening. Thanks to his recent rank up, his agility had drastically improved. He's faster than I thought. Without moving a single step, Reborn tracked Bell solely with the movement of his eyes, watching the boy attempt to shift his breathing rhythm and create a blind spot. Firebolt. A bolt of lightning-shaped fire was blasted from Reborn's flank, aiming straight for his feet. Reborn casually hopped backward, letting the magic strike the empty ground. Firebolt. Bell fired another shot at the mid-air hitman. Twisting his body, Reborn evaded the second blast. He's gone. When Reborn glanced toward where the magic had originated, Bell was already nowhere to be seen. Ha! While Reborn was dodging mid-air, Bell had swiftly maneuvered behind him. Kicking off the ground, he launched himself toward Reborn's exposed back. Not bad, but still lacking. Reborn understood Bell was trying various tactics to throw him off, but the hitman could clearly feel the boy's presence behind him. A complete surprise attack was impossible. Reborn spun further and launched a roundhouse kick toward Bell. Firebolt. The moment Bell approached Reborn, he fired a shot directly at the ground, using the recoil to propel himself even higher into the air. This sudden shift in trajectory actually forced Reborn's eyes wide in genuine surprise. Firebolt. Firing another blast upward to reverse his momentum, Bell initiated a rapid dive. He plunged toward Reborn, thrusting Ushiwakamaru forward with all his might. Not bad. With his feet hanging upside down in midair, Reborn showed absolutely no fear as the blade approached. He simply clamped both feet around the flat of Ushiwakamaru's blade, stopping the thrust cold in a flawless mid-air blade catch. Too bad. Coup. Shaken by the failure of his strategy, Bell immediately swung the Hestia knife in a wide horizontal arc. Your decision-making is too slow. In the brief moment of Bell's hesitation, Reborn released Ushiwakamaru, kicked off the tip of the blade to safely land on the ground, and easily evaded the Hestia knife's leftward sweeping strike. Returning the favor. Gaha. Kicking off the dirt, Reborn launched himself back into the air and buried a vacuum-flying knee right into Bell's jaw. Unable to use his magic to change direction in time, Bell's neck was forcibly bent backward. "I'm not done yet. Guho." Following up instantly, Reborn drove a brutal right straight directly into Bell's face. The impact launched Bell backward, sending him plummeting off the very cliff he had just spent hours climbing. Don't take your eyes off the enemy just because you're falling. Go fu. Running partway down the vertical cliff face, Reborn kicked off the stone to use it as a foothold, intercepted the free-falling Bell in midair, and planted a devastating kick into his stomach. Bell coughed up blood before violently crashing into the ground below. Even with his newly acquired rank-up stats, the sheer trauma of being pummeled in midair and slammed into the earth was enough to completely knock Bell out. "You've got decent instincts, but you still have a long way to go. Not that you can hear me right now." Landing gracefully beside the crater, Reborn noted Bell's unconscious state and walked over to the battered boy. "Get the hell up, Bell. Guho." Rather than administering first aid, Reborn ruthlessly kicked the unconscious Bell. The sharp pain forcibly jolted Bell awake. "You don't have time to sleep. You have an overwhelming lack of interpersonal combat experience. Now get on your feet. He's an absolute demon." And so, Reborn's training, which made literal hell seem preferable, continued. Training Day 3. Yo-woo-woo. Currently, Bell was sprinting through the Chaos Desert. Having been shot with a dying will bullet, he was running with the literal dying will to survive, kicking up a massive sandstorm in his wake. The reason they were running through a desert. Because it was scorching hot during the day and freezing cold at night. Reborn had decided it was the perfect environment to build endurance. The scene shifts. It's been 5 years since then. Smiles have finally returned to the people. This was the kingdom of Shalsard, a nation nestled deep within the desert. Walking through the bustling castle town was a human with tanned skin, accompanied by heavily muscled, dark-skinned guards. "Freya. What are you doing right now, I wonder?" This human was Aram Raza Shalsard, the king of the Shalsard kingdom. However, that was merely a public facade. Her true name was Ollie. Though publicly known as a man, Ollie was actually a woman. The previous king had struggled to produce an heir, so Ollie had been raised as a prince. 5 years ago, the kingdom of Shalsard had fallen when the kingdom of Valsa brought in the Reshef Familia to invade. The king was executed and Ollie was captured by slave merchants. However, Ollie was saved from slavery by Freya, who had taken an interest in her. With the power of the Freya Familia, they successfully repelled the Reshef Familia. From there, Ollie ascended to the throne and rebuilt the Shalsard kingdom at an astonishing pace. Currently, Ollie was personally inspecting the castle town. "Is something the matter, King Aram?" "No. It just brings me joy to see smiles return to the faces of people who once looked so close to death. That is all thanks to you, King Aram. Because we had you, the Shalsard kingdom was able to rise again. I couldn't have done it alone. It's thanks to the citizens who believed in me, and to you and the Phaser Company, Boffman. Your words honor me. I give you my deepest gratitude." The man called Boffman spoke words of gratitude. His full name was Boffman Phaser. He had once been a base, greed-driven slave merchant. But after a certain incident, he reached an enlightened state where he realized that muscle is everything. He washed his hands of the slave trade, becoming the absolute shield that protected Ollie and pouring his efforts into the development of the Shalsard kingdom. Kaya Ia. P. Pervert. There's a pervert charging this way at incredible speed. Suddenly, the panicked screams of the citizens echoed through the streets. Accompanied by a tremendous roaring sound, the sudden appearance of a man in nothing but his underwear blasted into Ollie and Boffman's line of sight. What in the world is that? Protect King Aram. I will halt this ruffian. Yes, sir. The sudden appearance of a half-naked man charging toward them caused the guards to flush red with confusion. But Boffman immediately ordered his men to protect the king, and took up a combat stance against the approaching dying Will Bell. I know not who you are, but Boffman Phaser will not permit such savagery within the Shalsud kingdom. I shall strike you down. Out of my way. Go ha. Boffman bravely challenged the dying Will Bell, only to be struck by a devastating uppercut that launched him high into the sky. Without losing a single ounce of momentum, Bell continued his mad sprint straight through the town. Meanwhile, the airborne Boffman eventually plummeted back to the earth, crashing heavily into the street. Boffman! Lord Boffman! Ollie and the guards rushed over to where the massive man had fallen. Forgive me, King Aram. To think that I, your shield, would expose such a pathetic display. Never mind that. Are you all right? Boffman possessed a fauna, and had achieved A rank up. Thus, he was able to maintain his consciousness even after taking a direct hit from Bell. Yes, I am unharmed. However, this foolish Boffman has realized something. To reach even greater heights. To truly protect King Aram and the Shalsud kingdom, I must train myself even further. I swear to become a warrior capable of surpassing that man. Is that so? Seeing Boffman completely unfazed by his defeat, and instead burning with a renewed passion for bodybuilding, Ollie couldn't help but slowly back away in mild horror. Seriously though, what the hell was that guy? Support this fanfic by leaving positive review, comments, and power stones. For advanced chapters. Patreon.com/negative translations. Chapter 72, Chapter 72, Illusion. 1953 words. Want to read ahead? Join my Patreon for just $7 to get early access to all upcoming chapters. Patreon.com/negative translations. Chapter 72, Illusion. While Bell was suffering through Reborn's training, Suna and the others had successfully rescued Lily from the Soma Familia. Afterward, the group relocated to the Blue Pharmacy, the home base of the Mayak Familia. Your supporters' conversion is complete. Hestia and Lily emerged from the back workshop, signaling the end of the ritual. I'm so glad, Lily. It's great that your withdrawal was approved. Why yes. It is all thanks to you, Tsunayoshi-sama, and Hestia-sama. Thank you so much. I didn't really do anything. I couldn't force them to let you leave with my power. I only did the bare minimum myself. Soma only listened because you overcame the allure of the divine wine on your own. You don't need to thank me. Lily's withdrawal from her former familia was granted because Soma had challenged her to drink his divine wine, promising to listen to her request only if she could resist its absolute charm. Lily drank the wine and conquered its allure. Soma had been genuinely shocked that a mortal could resist it, but he kept his word. Following that, Hestia presented her terms. She offered a portion of the prize money from the upcoming war game as Lily's buyout fee. Should they lose, the Hestia knife would be used as collateral. With those conditions, Soma approved Lily's withdrawal. By the way, where is Bell-sama? Tsunayoshi-sama mentioned he was training, but Bell-kun went outside the city to train with Reborn-kun. Tsuna-kun's master. Tsunayoshi-sama has a master. This is the first I'm hearing of this. What kind of person is he? He was a baby wearing a yellow pacifier around his neck. A baby? What are you talking about, Naza-sama? I know it sounds unbelievable, but it's the truth. Indeed. Furthermore, he stood on his own 2 feet and spoke fluently. Lily couldn't believe the bizarre description coming out of Naza's mouth, but when even the gods Hestia and Mike nodded in agreement, she had no choice but to accept it. More importantly, can Bell-sama actually get stronger? From what I've heard, I'm nothing but worried. He is absolutely not okay. He's probably half dead right now. Worst case scenario, he might actually die before the war game even starts. Bell-sama might die. What do you mean by that, Tsunayoshi-sama? Reborn's training is way too Spartan. I've nearly died so many times myself. Tsunayoshi-sama is terrified. Suna's face was pale, his body visibly trembling. Seeing the incredibly powerful Suna paralyzed by fear over this reborn, filled Lily with both shock and terror. Oh God. I feel sick just remembering it. Pull yourself together, Suna-kun. Don't think about it anymore. Calm down, Suna. Deep breaths, take deep breaths. I'll go get some medicine. Can we really win this? Seeing Suna experience a flashback to his past training, Hestia, Mayak, and Naza scrambled in a panic to calm him down. Lily could only watch, her anxiety regarding their odds in the war game skyrocketing. Oh. Right. 10 minutes later. Having finally recovered his composure, Suna remembered something important. Hey, Lily. I have a favor to ask. What is it? Could you train me? Excuse me. Lily let out a squeak of surprise. She never in her wildest dreams imagined Suna would ask her for training. In the past, asking for guidance would have been difficult since they belonged to different factions, but now that they were in the same familia, Suna felt comfortable asking. Why would you want training from me, Tsunayoshi-sama? I awakened a new skill, but I need your help to figure out how to master it. What do you mean? It's a skill that lets me use illusions, but I just can't seem to grasp the trick to it. So, I was hoping you could teach me how you do it. I see. Her transformation magic wasn't an illusion, but the concept of generating something that wasn't originally there was fundamentally similar. Lily understood why Suna had come to her. I don't mind. I owe you my life, Tsunayoshi-sama. Thanks, Lily. The next day, Suna and Lily headed to the dense forest of Sioro, located to the east of Ororio, to begin their training. Your wounds are mine, my wounds are mine. As Lily chanted, a pair of feline ears materialized on her head. Her magic allowed her to transform into anyone of roughly the same build. The resulting transformation relied entirely on the mental image she held during the incantation. If the image lacked detail, the spell would fail. Transforming into a beast person also granted her their heightened senses of smell and hearing. The chime of 12. Lily recited a different incantation, and the cat ears vanished. This was the cancellation chant for Cinderella. Without it, she couldn't undo her transformation. This is my magic, Cinderella. Though I suppose you already realize that, Tsunayoshi-sama, so this is old news. Anyway, let's begin the training. I'm in your hands, Lily. I never thought the day would come where I'd be training someone else. Lily had gathered intel and advised others plenty of times, but she had never actively served as a martial or magical instructor. It was a strange feeling. Listen closely, Tsunayoshi-sama. Just now, I consumed mine to construct those cat ears. When doing so, I pictured my own true appearance on the right side of my mind, and the cat ears on the left side. Then, I pulled the two images to the center, imagining a form where I and the cat ears merged. Only then did I chant the spell to complete the transformation. So imagination is the key. Yes. My magic will fail if I don't construct a clear, precise image in my head. However, this is just my personal trick for transforming, so I can't guarantee it will work perfectly for your illusions. Please just use it as a reference. Got it. Taking Lily's advice to heart, Suna entered hyper-dying will mode without equipping his gloves. The flame on his forehead and his eyes immediately shifted to the indigo of the mist flame. Imagination. Suna closed his eyes. On the right, he pictured his normal self. On the left, a pair of cat ears. He brought the two together, imagining his own figure sporting the feline traits. Instantly, Suna's body was enveloped in indigo flames. When the mist cleared, Suna stood there in his normal form, but with a pair of fluffy cat ears resting atop his head. How's this? It worked. Unable to see his own appearance, Suna asked Lily for confirmation. Lily was completely dumbfounded that he had succeeded on his very first try. Alright, I've got the hang of the sensation. Next is... Suna closed his eyes and focused again. The indigo flames flared up around him once more. Me. The mist dissipated, revealing Suna completely transformed into Lily. The Paolum let out a yelp of pure shock, having never expected him to mimic her. How is it? Did I get it right? Why did you turn into me? Ah, you were right in front of me, so I just kinda. And could you please stop mimicking my voice? Seeing a perfect replica of herself staring back, speaking in her exact tone and cadence, was a deeply unsettling experience for Lily. I'm not mimicking you. You're just hearing it that way. Illusions control human perception, which means they manipulate all 5 senses. With that, Suna deactivated the illusion. His eyes and forehead flame returned to their familiar vibrant orange. Anyway, thank you, Lily. Thanks to you, I've figured out the trick. Please give me back all the time and effort I spent struggling to learn this. What's wrong, Lily? What do you mean, what's wrong? It took me forever to learn how to transform properly, so why are you casually pulling it off like it's nothing? I just did exactly what you told me to do. Suna could only stand there utterly bewildered as Lily threw a completely irrational tantrum. And you even transformed into someone with a completely different body type. I can't even do that. You can't. Yes. I can only transform into targets of a similar size. At this rate, my reason for existing will disappear. No. Your ability is still vastly superior to mine. Please don't patronize me. I'm not patronizing you. I can transform into other people, but at the end of the day, it's just an illusion. Anyone with a sharp eye for illusions or the ability to use them themselves will see right through it. But unlike me, you manifest a tangible, physical reality. The chances of an enemy seeing through your disguise are much lower than mine. That's why I said you're better at this. And we're going to need your power for the upcoming war game. What do you mean? During the donatus yesterday, they decided on the format for the war game. It's going to be a siege war. Our victory condition is defeating the commander of the Apollo Familia. Our defeat condition is if their commander survives for 3 days. A siege war. But that means we'll be facing the entirety of the Apollo Familia at once. Exactly. And on top of that, Apollo apparently stated that we are allowed to add 1 helper from a familia outside the city. The Apollo Familia boasted over 100 members. Meanwhile, the Hestia Familia consisted of exactly 4 people, Bell, Suna, Lily, and 1 outside helper. In a straightforward clash, their defeat was painfully obvious. I mentioned this yesterday, but the whole reason this war game is happening is because Apollo wants Bell. Bell will likely want to settle this with his own 2 hands. Which means we need to isolate the enemy commander and force a one-on-one duel between him and Bell. In other words, the rest of us will have to hold off the entirety of their forces by ourselves. That's the gist of it. That's easy to say, but wait, don't tell me. Hearing Suna's explanation, Lily suddenly realized exactly how his illusion strategy fit into the picture. But even if that works, it'll only buy us a temporary advantage. Right. Which is why if my other plan succeeds, we might be able to flip the entire board. That said, I still haven't figured out exactly how to execute it, and even if I do, it's a massive gamble. A gamble? I had Ina and Hermes tell me everything they knew about the Apollo Familia. Judging that it was better to leave the search for Lily to the Hermes Familia rather than himself, Suna hadn't just been sitting around. He had actively gathered intelligence on the Apollo Familia's inner workings and personnel to prepare for the war game. Based on what I learned about their members and internal politics, I came up with an idea. What kind of idea? Well, as Lily asked, Suna detailed the strategy he had devised to win the war game. That is certainly an all-or-nothing gamble. Do you think we can pull it off? It will be extremely difficult. But if this plan succeeds, Belsama will get his duel, and the rest of us might actually survive. I'd say it's more than worth the risk. Are you sure? It's highly dangerous. I don't mind. In fact, if we don't go this far, we have zero chance of winning. Besides, if Bell-sama were here, I know he would agree with your plan. Got it. Support this fanfic by leaving positive review, comments, and power stones. For advanced chapters, patreon.com/negative-translations. Chapter 73, Nexus. 2,127 words. Want to read ahead? Join my Patreon for just $7 to get early access to all upcoming chapters. Patreon.com/negative-translations. Chapter 73, Nexus. Lily had resolved to execute Suna's plan. The problem is figuring out how to make the plan succeed. What should we do? Suna deactivated his hyper-dying will mode, pacing back and forth as he and Lily brainstormed methods to ensure their victory. Oh, there you are. Welf-sama. Suddenly, Welf appeared, carrying his massive greatsword on his back. Suna and Lily blinked in surprise at his arrival. Hestia-sama told me you guys were training out here. What business do you have here, Welf-sama? I apologize, but we are currently very busy planning our strategy for the war game. We don't have time to entertain you. Don't say such cold things, Lilisuk. We're members of the same familia now. Welf-sama, you don't mean. Yeah. I withdrew from the Hephaestus familia, and converted to the Hestia familia. I'm joining the war game against Apollo too. Pointing a thumb at his chest, Welf flashed them a refreshing, confident grin. Did you do this for us? Yeah. Hearing your words yesterday made up my mind. Huh? If I lost a precious comrade right in front of me, I wouldn't be able to rest in peace. That's what you said, right? You were desperate to keep your true strength hidden, but you threw that pride away without a second thought to save Lilisuk. So I figured I should be willing to fight for Bell, my friend, too. Welf. Thank you. Despite the overwhelmingly disadvantageous situation, Welf had chosen to stand by them. Suna bowed his head in sincere gratitude. And I wasn't the only one moved by your words. I am here as well. Stepping out from the tree line was Mikoto from the Takamikazuchi familia. Mikoto-sama too. Yes. I have yet to fully atone for driving you all into a death trap. Therefore, I have converted from the Takamikazuchi familia to the Hestia familia. With this, I too can participate in the war game. Mikoto dropped to one knee, bowing her head deeply to demonstrate her absolute resolve. Are you sure about this? Yes. However, unlike Welf Dano, I will only be transferring for a single year. Though my time with you will be brief, I intend to devote every ounce of my strength to your cause. I look forward to working with you. So that's the deal. Mind if we join the strategy meeting? Welf asked. Yeah. Of course. So, got any good ideas? Yes. Tsunayoshi-sama has devised a plan, and we were just trying to figure out how to successfully execute it. What kind of plan? It involves. Lily quickly brought Welf and Mikoto up to speed on Suna's strategy. Whoa. Hey, that's one hell of a gamble. Yes. But if it succeeds, we can flip the entire board in our favor. That's true, but hey, Suna. Are you really okay with this? If this fails, Bell falls into the Apollo familia's hands. If worst comes to worst, I'll step in and handle it. But once this war game is over, I'm returning to my own country. Huh. Why so suddenly? A lot happened. Anyway, once I'm gone, you guys will have to fight without my power. If you rely too much on me now, you might not be able to survive on your own later. That's why I'm keeping myself out of the frontline fights as much as possible. I know it sounds selfish, but it's for everyone's sake. Suna explained his reasoning for holding back. Since they couldn't force him to stay in Ororio forever, and his logic was fundamentally sound, Wealth and Mikoto accepted his decision without further argument. Let's just fight it out for now. If we don't know what kind of power each of us brings to the table, we won't be able to coordinate properly. Plus, fighting might give us a hint on how to pull off this crazy plan of yours. I agree with Wealth Dano. We must first understand each other's capabilities. And even though our time is short, actual combat experience will help us refine our skills. That makes sense. Tsunayoshi-sama, would you mind sparring with Wealth-sama and Mikoto-sama? I'll observe your movements and see if I can formulate a concrete plan. Got it. Tsuna pulled his signature 27-foot gloves from his pockets, slipping them on as his eyes flared into hyper-dying will mode. Come at me with your dying will. I incredible. So strong. Wealth and Mikoto stood opposite Tsuna. They already knew from yesterday's incident that he was a powerhouse. But standing directly in his crosshairs made them truly realize the sheer, oppressive gravity of his strength. Wealth hoisted his greatsword, and Mikoto drew her katana, both settling into their combat stances. Wealth Dano. Could you create an opening for me? Covering her mouth with her left hand to prevent Tsuna from reading her lips, Mikoto whispered to the smith. Wealth instantly grasped her intent and gave a silent nod. Yo-woo-woo. Holding his greatsword high above his head in an overhead stance, Wealth charged straight at Tsuna. This was the Joden stance. It allowed for the fastest possible attack, requiring only a single downward swing to cleave the enemy and maximize the weapon's reach. Not a bad swing. It won't budge. Wealth brought the massive blade down with all his might in a devastating headcleaver strike. Yet, his all-out attack was caught effortlessly in Tsuna's right hand. You haven't mastered your strength yet. Is it the aftereffects of your rank-up? Tsuna's hyper-intuition saw right through Wealth's core. Wealth was visibly shaken that a single clash had exposed his fundamental weakness. When an adventurer undergoes a rank-up, the sudden, explosive increase in physical specs leaves their senses lagging behind. Because of this dissonance, they cannot fully utilize their newly acquired strength. This wasn't unique to Wealth, it was a universal phenomenon for all newly leveled adventurers, one that could only be corrected through rigorous training. He's good at hiding her presence. Realizing Mikoto was no longer in his forward vision, Tsuna probed the area but couldn't sense her aura. Suddenly, Mikoto materialized completely soundlessly behind him and launched an attack. She dropped her sword. Sensing the killing intent just as she initiated her strike, Tsuna whipped around, only to see Mikoto lunging at him barehanded. She threw a vertical fist. Surprised but reacting instantly, Tsuna caught her fist in his left palm. The Takamikazuchi familia's patron deity was the god of martial arts. Therefore, Mikoto had been thoroughly drilled in martial arts. Wealth Dano. Yeah. Recognizing Mikoto's cue, Wealth released his grip on the greatsword, kicked off the ground, and vaulted high into the air. Ha! Mikoto threw her arms around Tsuna, locking him in a grapple to break his balance. So that's what they're doing. As his posture tilted, Tsuna caught sight of Wealth reaching out mid-air to grab Mikoto's katana, which she had tossed high above Tsuna's head beforehand. In that fraction of a second, Tsuna deduced their entire strategy. Wealth's initial charge was a smokescreen. While Tsuna was distracted, Mikoto erased her presence and circled behind for a surprise attack. To seal Tsuna's movements, she threw her katana up and grappled him. Finally, Wealth would grab the airborne katana and execute a plunging strike from above. Excellent teamwork. Tsuna mentally praised their coordination. Simultaneously, the flame on his forehead and his eyes shifted to a blinding yellow. Cloaking Wealth's greatsword in sun flames, Tsuna hurled the massive weapon straight up into the sky. You've gotta be kidding me. What absurd arm strength. The greatsword rocketed upward with terrifying velocity, violently colliding with Mikoto's airborne katana and knocking it completely out of reach. Wealth and Mikoto stared in pure disbelief as Tsuna, through the heavy weapon with the ease of tossing a pebble. Suna had utilized the Sun Flame's characteristic of activation to drastically accelerate the greatsword's kinetic velocity, turning the heavy blade into a projectile as fast as a bullet. Having thrown the sword, Suna placed both palms flat against the earth to stabilize his balance. What is this? The grass around Suna and Mikoto suddenly erupted in a frenzy of accelerated growth. Shocked by the writhing vegetation lunging toward her, Mikoto immediately released her hold on Suna, and leapt backward as Suna was entirely swallowed by the towering grass. Suna had used the sun's activation to supercharge the plant's growth. A split second later, Suna burst from the thicket, charging directly at Mikoto. She instantly dropped into a martial arts stance, intercepting him with a sharp palm strike to the chest. He vanished. The moment her palm made contact, Suna dissipated like mist. While hidden inside the overgrown grass, Suna had used the mist flame's characteristic of construction to construct an illusion of himself. Because the clone had burst out so naturally, Mikoto hadn't realized it was a fake, and engaged it head-on. The real Suna seamlessly slipped out from the brush, instantly closing the distance, and pressing a knife hand directly against Mikoto's neck. Got him. While Mikoto was being held at knife point, Wealth, still in midair, kicked off a sturdy tree branch to accelerate his descent, aiming a devastating right straight at Suna's exposed back. However, Suna had already sensed Wealth's approach. He glanced backward, the flame on his forehead and his eyes shifting to a tranquil blue. With a sweeping motion of his right hand, a wave of blue flames washed over the descending Wealth. My body. Wealth instinctively crossed his arms over his face to block the attack, but quickly realized he was practically frozen in midair, his momentum completely killed. Suna had feigned a direct attack, instead using the rain flame's characteristic of tranquility to dull Wealth's kinetic energy and physical movements. That was a solid combo. Suna casually grabbed the sluggish Wealth by the left arm, and set him gently on the ground. The moment Suna reverted his flames back to the sky attribute, the rain flames coating Wealth vanished. The Trioniset skill did not allow for the simultaneous use of multiple flame attributes. Switching to a new attribute immediately cancelled the effects of the previous one. However, the grass that had been physically stimulated by the sun flames remained permanently overgrown. But neither of you have fully adapted to your rank up yet. First, if you can't master that power, you won't be able to compete with the Apollo Familia. Once you get a handle on it, you'll be able to execute much more advanced combinations. He completely toyed with two level 2s. So this is the power of an adventurer who returned alive from the 59th floor. Wealth and Mikoto had gone all out trying to land a single hit. Suna, on the other hand, hadn't lost his composure for a second, his breathing perfectly even. The two adventurers keenly felt the insurmountable gap in their abilities. Hey, Suna. Yeah. Hestia-sama mentioned that Bell is currently training outside the city with your master, right? Yeah. What about it? Is that training harsh? Harsh doesn't even begin to cover it. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but I guarantee Bell has nearly died several times by now. Worst case scenario, he won't even survive to see the war game. What? Wealth and Mikoto gasped, having never imagined the training was literally life-threatening. His methods are absolutely insane, but if you can survive them, your growth rate is explosive. I believe Bell can overcome it. He's out there right now, training with his dying will. Having witnessed Bell's battle against the Minotaur, Suna knew exactly what the boy was capable of. He was absolutely certain that Bell Cranel would become a hero who would save the world. In that case, don't hold back, Suna. What? I don't care how strong you are. If we know you're not actually going to hurt us, this training is meaningless. We can't call this fighting with our dying will. I completely agree. In a real battle against a superior foe, they aren't going to pull their punches. If Beldono is risking his life to get stronger, we must be prepared to do the same. Are you serious? Yeah. Beat us into the dirt. Come at us with the intent to kill, Sawatadano. Understood. Feeling the sheer weight of wealth and Mikoto's resolve, Suna decided to harden his heart. Instantly, flames like a raging storm erupted from Suna's body. The sheer pressure was so overwhelming that Wealth and Mikoto had to plant their feet firmly into the earth just to keep from being blown away. Here I come. Support this fanfic by leaving positive review, comments, and power stones. For advanced chapters, patreon.com/negative translations. Chapter 74, Success Rate. 1,577 words. Want to read ahead? Join my Patreon for just $7 to get early access to all upcoming chapters. Patreon.com/negative translations. Chapter 74, Success Rate. Having finished his grueling sparring session with Wealth and Mikoto, Suna headed back into Orario. I wonder if I overdid it a bit. Walking through the streets, Suna reflected on the day's training. To answer their resolve, he hadn't gone all out, but he had fought as seriously as he safely could. He had treated their injuries with his sun flames afterward, but he was still worried about them. You look troubled. Eh? As Suna walked with his head down, a familiar voice called out to him from ahead. Finn. Looking up, Suna saw the Paolum captain standing in his path. Hello. Loki told me about your upcoming war game. It sounds like quite the ordeal. Yeah. That's why we're training. Judging by your tone, you don't intend to fight on the front lines yourself. Finn knew that if Suna truly wanted to, he could win against the Apollo Familia single-handedly without a second of training. He immediately deduced from Suna's demeanor that the boy was intentionally holding back. Do you have a strategy in mind? Yeah. Honestly, it's a total gamble, though. Would you mind sharing it with me? I personally want you to win this as well. After seeing Bell Cranel fight that Minotaur and witnessing the technique you used to destroy the spirit, I've become quite the fan of your Familia. So I'd like to offer my assistance. Really? The rules forbid outside participation, but they don't forbid giving advice. Or am I not reliable enough for you? Not at all. Having witnessed Finn's brilliant tactical command firsthand during the expedition, Suna knew firsthand the sheer greatness of his command. Having Finn review their plan was an absolute godsend. Suna and Finn relocated to a nearby cafe to discuss the war game strategy in detail. I see. It is certainly an all-or-nothing gamble, but if you pull it off, you can completely control the battlefield. Finn remained perfectly composed, analyzing Suna's wild strategy without a hint of surprise. Did you come up with this plan yourself? I came up with the core idea, but Lily figured out the specific mechanics to actually execute it. So what do you think of the plan? Honestly, from a tactical standpoint, there is nothing I can add. The plan is sound. If anything is missing, it would be the staging. Staging? Yes. When the moment arrives, I want you to say this. Finn leaned in and relayed a specific phrase to Suna. Hearing it, Suna felt his face heat up in embarrassment. Am I really supposed to say that? It's an all-or-nothing gamble anyway. I think it's worth adding a little flair, don't you? Wait, I'm the one who has to do it. You're the most qualified. Besides, compared to the carnage in the deep floors, a little acting is nothing, right? I mean, I guess, but whether you do it or not is entirely up to you. I merely provided a suggestion. The rest is in your hands. After wrapping up his consultation with Finn, Suna left the cafe. Suna. Lunwar. As the hostess of fertility came into view, Lunwar was standing by the entrance, waving him over. Perfect timing. Rio has some business with you. Rio does. Hold on, I'll go call her, so wait here. Why yeah. Lunwar marched into the tavern to fetch the elf. Honestly. Why are you so high maintenance? I'll let go of me, Lunwar. You were the one who brought this up in the first place. Don't wimp out now. What is going on? Lunwar was forcefully dragging Rio by the collar, hauling her toward the entrance. Rio planted her feet and resisted with all her might, but she was no match for Lunwar's raw strength, and was unceremoniously yanked out into the street. Suna watched the bizarre struggle, utterly bewildered and unsure of how to react. Here. Now go talk to him. Lunwar shoved Rio hard in the back with both hands, sending the elf stumbling forward directly into Tsuna. Don't come any closer to me. Gufu. The moment she was shoved into his personal space, Rio violently shoved Tsuna away. Caught completely off guard, Tsuna was sent flying backward, smacking the back of his head hard against the cobblestone. What the hell are you doing? Because you shoved me. It was an act of force majeure. Lunwar immediately laid into Rio for attacking Tsuna exactly like she had done in the past, while a blushing Rio desperately tried to defend her actions. Ow! Seriously, what is wrong with this girl? Lunwar was also secretly astounded by Tsuna's ridiculous durability, noting that he had taken a full-force shove from a level 4, and only complained about a bumped head. Does this business you have with me involve beating me up? Absolutely not. I just, Rio's face flushed bright red. She fidgeted nervously, awkwardly rubbing her thighs together. Actually, it's been decided that I will participate in your war game as the outside helper. You are, Rio. Why yes. But aren't you a resident of Ora Rio? I thought the helper had to be from outside the city. Astriya-sama is currently outside the city, so it does not violate the rules. Oh right. But won't your identity be exposed? Lord Hermes has promised to handle the concealment. Hermes-sama did. Apparently, the rules of this war game were decided by a lottery drawn by Lord Hermes. Feeling responsible for the outcome, he personally requested my assistance. Therefore, I can fight alongside you. Really? Learning that a level 4 veteran like Rio was joining their side drastically increased their chances of success, and Tsuna's face lit up with joy. That is all I had to say. Farewell. Not so fast. Rio tried to bolt back into the tavern, but Lunwar snatched her by the scruff of the neck, freezing her in place. You have something you want to give him, don't you? Something to give me? Come on. Rio. Prompted by Lunwar's glaring, Rio reluctantly reached into her right pocket and pulled something out. What's this? It's an amulet. It was an amulet. However, calling it an amulet was being generous. It was incredibly ragged, with stuffing poking out of the seams in several places. I owe you a debt of gratitude. When I heard about the war game, I started making this. I never imagined I would actually be fighting in it alongside you, though. Wait, is this for me? Why yes. Refusing to meet his eyes, Rio thrust the amulet forward, her face practically glowing red. Rio is just clumsy. Believe it or not, this is actually one of the better ones she's made. Lunwar. Stop saying unnecessary things. So take it, won't you? She worked really hard making it just for you. Lunwari. Lunwar shot Tsuna a playful wink, causing Rio to let out a pathetic, humiliated whine. Are you sure I can have it? Why you'll accept it? Yeah. There's no reason for me to refuse. Tsuna reached out to take the amulet, and Rio extended her hand to offer it. Suddenly, the knot holding the amulet slipped, and it tumbled toward the ground. Both of them panicked and lunged to catch it before it hit the dirt. Oh crap. Lunwar saw it happen in slow motion. Tsuna managed to catch the amulet, but in doing so, his hand clamped directly over Rio's. Elves were notoriously strict about physical contact, outright rejecting the touch of anyone they hadn't personally acknowledged. Knowing this full well, Lunwar vividly imagined Rio sending Tsuna flying with another punch. But that didn't happen. Rio's hand was completely enveloped by Tsuna's. Yet, she showed absolutely no signs of rejection. Realizing what had just happened, both of them froze in place, utterly stunned. Sorry. And no. Snapping out of their daze, they hurriedly yanked their hands away from each other. So it feels like it's fine. It seems so. Alright. Anyway, thanks for the amulet. I'll see you at the war game. Unable to handle the intensely awkward atmosphere, Suna blurted out his thanks and sprinted away as fast as his legs could carry him. I didn't expect Sawada-san to be an acceptable person. Ryo stared down at her hand, realizing that Suna had apparently cleared her subconscious threshold for physical intimacy. Good for you, Ryo. If you can touch him, you can date him without any problems. Lunwar whispered teasingly into Ryo's ear, causing the elf's face and ears to burn a violent shade of crimson. Gasp! Amidst her panic, Ryo suddenly felt multiple intense gazes piercing her back. Snapping back to reality, she slowly, fearfully turned her head to look behind her. Standing there with massive smirks on their faces were Anya and Chloe, alongside a brightly smiling Seer. To think our Ryo would. This just got incredibly interesting, Naya. This is the worst. Seeing Chloe and Anya grinning like absolute menaces made Ryo want to sink into the floor. I'm so happy for you. You finally found your destined partner, Ryo. Why, you're wrong, Seer. I absolutely do not view him in that way. Make sure to invite us to the wedding. It's a misunderstanding. Support this fanfic by leaving positive review, comments, and power stones. For advanced chapters, patreon.com/negative translations. Chapter 75, Look Back. 1089 words. Want to read ahead? Join my Patreon for just $7 to get early access to all upcoming chapters. Patreon.com/negative translations. Chapter 75, Look Back. 6 days had passed since Bell left for his training outside the city. I'll put the materials over here, Miyake-sama. Thanks for the help, Suna. It was noon. Suna was currently helping out at the Blue Pharmacy, the home of the Miyake Familia. You can take a break now, Suna. Yeah. Got it. Accepting a glass of water from Naza, Suna sat down in a nearby chair to rest. Ever since the war game was officially announced, Suna had fallen into a routine: intense training in the morning, followed by helping out the Miyake Familia in the afternoon. Bell should be coming back today, right? Reborn had messaged him via the smartphone he'd left behind, informing him that they would be returning today. Over the past few days, Suna had used the phone to keep Reborn updated on their situation, the date and format of the war game, Lily's successful rescue, and Welf and Mikoto officially joining the Hestia Familia. The war game was scheduled for 3 days from now, but because the battlefield was a 2-day journey from Oro, Bell needed to return today so they could deploy in time. He's absolutely not going to be okay. Suna was relieved that Bell hadn't actually died, but he knew for a fact that the boy wouldn't be returning unscathed. Right on cue. I am back. Pfft. The door to the Blue Pharmacy slowly creaked open. Standing in the doorway was Bell Cranel. He was using a broken tree branch as a makeshift cane, his clothes were shredded, his body was battered beyond belief, and his face was sunken in like a dried husk. Taking one look at the withered boy, Suna violently spat out his water. Losing the strength to even grip his branch, Bell collapsed face first onto the floor. Save me. Bell. Are you okay? What happened? Who did this to you? Seeing Bell looking like he had one foot in the grave, Naza and Miyake scrambled over in a complete panic. It's fine. He's just a little tired from training. I knew it. Reborn casually strolled into the pharmacy a few seconds later. Hearing Reborn brush off Bell's near-corpse state as a little tired, Suna immediately understood that his tutor had subjected Bell to absolute hell. I'll heal him. Suna had a mountain of complaints he wanted to hurl at Reborn, but healing Bell was the priority. Entering hyper-dying will mode, Suna immediately applied his sun flames to Bell's battered body. So that's the new power you got from your fauna. Suna's primary attribute was the sky flame. Normally, a person could only wield one flame type efficiently. While some rare individuals possessed multiple flame affinities, secondary flames were usually much weaker. Yet, Suna was generating sun flames with an output equal to his primary sky flames. Instantly deducing that this was the result of the fauna's system, Reborn smirked in satisfaction. More importantly, what the hell kind of training did you put him through? Having finished treating the worst of the injuries, Suna dropped out of hyper-dying will mode. Though he dreaded the answer, he couldn't stop himself from asking what exactly Reborn had done. Nothing major. Dodge my attacks and climb back up on your own. Pfft. As Bell desperately clawed his way up a massive sinkhole of quicksand to avoid being swallowed alive, Reborn repeatedly dropped him back into the quicksand. Climb out of that whirlpool on your own. Iowa. Reborn had tossed Bell into a massive, raging whirlpool in the ocean. Standing safely on the coastline, Reborn shouted instructions while Bell was violently spun around like laundry in a washing machine. Beat those guys. Don't ask the impossible. Reborn calmly commanded while Bell, whose upper body was completely bound tightly in rope, sprinted for his life from a horde of ravenous monsters. This is endurance training. Jaya Wa. While Bell sat under a roaring waterfall for meditation training, still entirely bound in rope, Reborn casually tossed a live electrical current into the water. Try escaping this forest. Iowa. Reborn used a flamethrower to set the entire forest ablaze, cutting off all escape routes, and forcing Bell to frantically search for a way out of the inferno. Cut all of these with your knife. Ha! Reborn whipped his arm forward, throwing something at blinding speed. The object shrieked past Bell's head, and completely pulverized a massive boulder behind him. Rolling out from the dust was a spiked metal sphere. It was a microhammer, a specialized throwing weapon Reborn had commissioned from the Vongala R&D department during a past tutoring program. It was designed to shatter solid rock and concrete with ease. All right, here we go. Yowa Aowa. Reborn hurled the microhammers as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Screaming his lungs out, Bell somehow managed to parry and slice the incoming projectiles with his knife. Now dodge my attacks while holding that boulder. Don't drop it. Gaho. Forcing Bell to hold a massive rock that threatened to crush his spine under its sheer weight, Reborn ruthlessly launched a barrage of physical attacks at the boy. And yeah, that's about it. Other than that, we just sparred a lot. You know, training in deserts with extreme temperature shifts, mountains with thin air, rocky cliffs where one wrong step means falling into an abyss, and valleys with heavier gravity. Ah! I see such a beautiful field of flowers. I shouldn't have asked. The training had clearly left Bell deeply traumatized, to the point where he was currently hallucinating the afterlife. Hearing Bell's screams and about training methods that could hardly be called training, Mayak and Naza were completely paralyzed, their jaws dropping to the floor. Suna deeply regretted ever asking. All right, you're all healed up and full of energy. In what world? You've completely mentally scarred him. Though Bell's body was physically healed, his spirit was clearly shattered. Hearing Reborn declare him full of energy, Suna couldn't help but interject as the straight man. Take tomorrow off to rest. The war game is in 3 days. Get your condition in order, Bell. Grandpa. Long time no see. I'm so tired. I just want to live peacefully with you forever. He's seeing things he definitely shouldn't be seeing right now. Support this fanfic by leaving positive review, comments, and power stones. For advanced chapters, patreon.com/negative-translations. Chapter 76, Rampage. 1,607 words. Want to read ahead? Join my Patreon for just $7 to get early access to all upcoming chapters. Patreon.com/negative translations. Chapter 76, Rampage. Bell's trauma had resurfaced, making him see things he never should have seen, but after some time passed, he finally managed to regain his composure. Chomp, chomp. Munch, munch. Gulp, gulp. Currently, Bell and Suna were at the hostess of fertility. Bell was wolfing down massive amounts of food and drinks one after another, leaving a veritable mountain of empty plates stacked on their table. He normally wasn't this much of a heavy eater, so Tsuna completely forgot about his own meal, watching Bell's voracious display in sheer dumbfoundment. Excuse me. Another steak, please. Just how much are you gonna eat, whitehair, Naya? Anya couldn't help but interject as Bell casually ordered yet another steak. His appetite was truly a sight to behold. Are you okay, Bell? Seer watched him with a worried expression. His appetite was so blatantly abnormal that she feared he might actually make himself sick. I was training outside the city to prepare for the war game. We were camping the entire time, so I didn't get to eat any proper food, and I just... Because the training had been so incredibly grueling, Bell's body was utterly exhausted, even with Tsuna's healing, and he had been struck by an intense, ravenous hunger. Coupled with the fact that they were roughing it, they hadn't been able to secure satisfactory prey or rations. Let alone seasonings, they didn't even have a proper place to cook, meaning he hadn't eaten a decent meal in days. Even so, you're eating way too much. Thanks to you, we're working our tails off over here, Naya. We don't have time to stand around chatting. Move your hands, not your mouths. Lunwar and Chloe complained as they carried massive stacks of plates, while Rio cleared the tables in silence. Fortunately, it was lunchtime. The fact that the pub was less crowded than it would be during the evening dinner rush was their only saving grace. You guys open. Welcome Naya. Reborn, who had gone to Hestia's part-time job to report their return, finally arrived. Anya went to greet him out of habit, but let out a yelp of surprise the moment she saw him. The baby is standing on two legs and talking, Naya. That kid from that time. Anya was entirely taken aback by the bizarre sight of a baby speaking so fluently. Seer, on the other hand, seemed to recognize him for some reason. Ryu and the others also noticed Reborn's presence and couldn't hide their astonishment. Bring me some booze first. What are you trying to drink, Reborn? You're a baby. As Anya and the others stood frozen in shock, Reborn casually ordered alcohol, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Suna immediately yelled at him for trying to drink when he was not only underage, but a literal infant. Hey! This ain't a place for a little brat like you. Suddenly, a large, thuggish-looking adventurer approached Reborn from the side. The man's face was flushed red, he was clearly drunk. I'll go wherever I damn well please. I don't take orders from you. Don't you talk back to me. Who the hell do you think I am? Like I care. I don't waste my time with weaklings. Get lost. What was that? Don't get cocky, you little shit. The man raised his fist and lunged at Reborn. Ryu and the others moved instantly to stop him. Gah! What? But Reborn was faster. His foot shot up, kicking the man squarely in the jaw. The adventurer flew backward, his body slamming hard against a wooden pillar. None of the waitresses had expected a baby to send a grown man flying. Anya, Chloe, Lunwar, Ryu, and Seer stared in wide-eyed disbelief. You little... The moment the men tried to counterattack, a gunshot echoed through the pub. Something zipped inches over the man's head at a terrifying speed. Reflexively, the man reached up to touch his scalp, only to find a patch of his hair missing. He looked back and saw a bullet embedded deeply in the pillar behind him. In an instant, he sobered up. The color completely drained from his face. You started this fight. You won't complain if I kill you, right? Hi-I-thri-ye. Reborn pointed his gun directly at the man, his voice dropping to a low, menacing rumble. Realizing his drunken bravado had just picked a fight with a genuine monster, the man let out a pathetic shriek, foamed at the mouth, and passed out. Good grief. Don't act tough when you're weak. Reborn blew the rising smoke away from the barrel and calmly tucked the gun back into his suit. Reborn. What are you doing? He's right. You could have killed him. He started it. It's his fault. Suna and Bell immediately reprimanded him, but Reborn didn't look the least bit remorseful for the chaos he'd just caused. Those movements. To accurately strike the jaw, one of the human body's vital points. Just who is this baby? Watching the scene unfold, Ryu, Lunwar, and Chloe instantly realized that Reborn was no ordinary infant. And then. What the hell do you think you're doing, you little shit? Mia appeared right behind Reborn, absolutely furious. She brought her massive fist down toward him. Her iron hammer of a blow struck the floorboards, cracking the solid wood into a V shape. It was the first time Suna had ever seen Mia's terrifying wrath, and he shrieked in fear. Bell and the others, who were well aware of how scary she could be, were rendered speechless. Mia, still fuming, suddenly blinked in surprise when she realized Reborn was no longer beneath her fist. You're no ordinary woman. Reborn's voice came from behind her. Mia quickly turned around to find Reborn standing on the table where Suna and Bell had been sitting, looking down at her with an amused grin. Suna and the others were equally shocked, wondering when he had managed to slip away and climb onto the table. Who the hell are you? I could ask you the same thing. Who are you? I'm Reborn. The world's strongest hitman. Believe me. A hitman, huh? And what about you? Who are you? I'm Mia. The owner of this pub. I see. My bad for making a ruckus. But that guy started it. Besides, protecting defenseless women is just what a gentleman does. You've got some nerve saying that when you knew exactly what you were doing. Mia understood perfectly. Reborn had sensed that Ryu and the others were more than capable of handling the drunk, yet he had deliberately chosen to step in and kick the adventurer himself. I'll let it slide as self-defense this time. Seems it's true he picked the fight, anyway. But remember this, in this pub, my word is law. If you break my laws, I won't show you any mercy. Right. Seems like it'd be a pain if I made an enemy out of you. Leaving him with that warning, Mia turned and walked back to the kitchen. A pain, you say? Don't make me laugh. That's my line. From that brief exchange, Mia had sensed it. Reborn spoke casually, but she knew that even if the heavens and earth flipped upside down, she would never be able to beat him. This is the first time I've ever seen Mama Mia back down, Naya. Just who in the world is this kid? If it were the usual Mia, no matter if the other party swung first, she had never once forgiven someone for causing such a violent scene. Anya and Seer couldn't hide their absolute shock. That was entertaining. How is that entertaining? That almost turned into a disaster. While everyone else was still shivering from Mia's terrifying aura, Reborn alone wore a delighted grin. Suna, having just experienced Mia's wrath firsthand, trembled as he yelled at his carefree tutor. Still, your owner is pretty damn strong, and quite the eccentric to boot. Considering she hired people like you. Ryu, Lunwar, and Chloe flinched at Reborn's pointed words. Relax, I ain't planning on blabbing to anyone. I'm basically from the same side of the tracks as you. From the moment Reborn laid eyes on the three of them, he had sensed that they were inhabitants of the underworld, just like him. Well, you're the one who's hardest to read. The one who caught Reborn's interest the most, however, was Seer. Having no idea why he was singling her out, Seer pointed a finger at herself and tilted her head in confusion. Who are you? Reborn, Seer is just a normal human. You're overthinking it. You think so? From where I'm standing, she's a hell of a lot scarier than that Mia woman. Reborn, who hadn't been afraid of Mia in the slightest, and had even laughed at her, was making absolutely no effort to hide his vigilance toward Seer. Bell was stunned to see Reborn so completely on guard. Girls are scary, you know. Especially maidens in love. You can say that again. Even under Reborn's intense scrutiny, Seer never lost her smile. She gave him a playful wink. Hearing her response, Reborn smirked and finally dropped his guard. This girl. She really isn't normal. Just who the hell is she? This kid, he really isn't normal. Just who the hell is he? Support this fanfic by leaving positive review, comments, and power stones. For advanced chapters. Patreon.com/negative translations. Chapter 77, Prophetic Dream. 1010 words. Want to read ahead? Join my Patreon for just $7 to get early access to all upcoming chapters. Patreon.com/negative translations. Chapter 77, Prophetic Dream. Time passed and night fell. Bell. Gee goddess. The moment Hestia dashed back into the blue pharmacy after finishing her shift, she burst into a waterfall of tears and threw her arms around Bell. These past 7 days without you. I thought I was going to lose my mind. I assent that a bit of an exaggeration. It is not. While you were gone, I did nothing but cry alone in my bed. Gee goddess. Hestia buried her teary face into Bell's chest, sobbing uncontrollably. Seeing her expression, Bell finally understood just how lonely she had been while he was away. Annoying. Hey. Don't ruin my emotional reunion with Bell. He shows zero mercy. Even in such a touching moment, Reborn delivered his ruthless commentary. Hestia glared daggers at him, while Tsuna marveled at how Reborn consistently refused to read the room. If you're done going into heat over your own dependent, we've got things to do. I am not in heat. And don't use such vulgar language, you're a baby. Especially not in front of a virgin goddess. You're the one acting vulgar. Hugging him in public, rubbing your face all over him, getting turned on by his scent. Don't spin tales. I'm not that much of a pervert. Bell, don't misunderstand. Accused of something so baseless, Hestia frantically tried to clear her name. Besides, I'm not that kind of indecent woman. I'm looking for a much purer, sweeter kind of romance. Too normal. Boring. 27 points. Don't just grade me. And I don't want to hear about romance from a baby who's never even been in love. What are you talking about? I have women of my own. Do you even know what you're saying? So even Hestia can't do anything against Reborn. Reborn casually held up his right hand, curling only his thumb while keeping the other 4 fingers straight, a gesture implying he had at least 4 lovers. Hestia, instantly understanding the meaning, snapped at him again. Watching the exchange, Tsuna couldn't help but pity Hestia, realizing that even a divine being was entirely at the mercy of Reborn's pace. Ha ha. What's wrong? Did your shift tire you out that much? This is your fault. Hestia was panting heavily from being jerked around by Reborn, but she still managed to fire back at his carefree comment. Oh right. Bell. Why yes, goddess. How did the training go? Tsunayoshi told me Reborn's training was so strict you could die from it. Are you okay? Why yeah, I'm fine. You do not look fine at all. Bell averted his eyes, trying to spare Hestia the worry, but there was no way he could deceive a goddess. She saw through his lie instantly. Reborn. What in the world did you do to my Bell? It was completely normal training. First, we got Bell. The moment Reborn began to explain the regimen, Bell collapsed to the floor and started violently flopping around like a fish gasping for air on dry land. Hestia panicked and rushed to his side. Hestia, you shouldn't ask. Bell is traumatized by what Reborn calls training. For your own sake, it's better if you don't know. Jay, just what exactly did you do to him? Hestia's anger erupted, but pushing the topic any further would only push Bell closer to the brink of insanity. She had no choice but to drop the subject. Reluctantly, they moved on to updating Bell's status to reflect the excelia he had gained from Reborn's hellish training. Why, you're kidding, right? But as Hestia performed the familiar status update, her eyes widened in absolute shock at the newly etched numbers. Meanwhile, what does this mean? The location was the ruins of Shreem Castle. This was the designated battlefield for the upcoming war game. The Apollo Familia had already arrived the day prior, and was currently busy making preparations. Amidst the ruins, a girl with long blue hair held her head in her hands. This was Cassandra Ailion. She was a healer for the Apollo Familia, a level 2 adventurer who held the alias of Mirabilis. I don't understand it at all. From time to time, Cassandra experienced prophetic dreams. However, they didn't just hand her the answers. They appeared as fragmented visions of the future accompanied by a cryptic, 17-line poem. To understand the prophecy, she had to decipher the poem. No matter how many times Cassandra told people about her power, no one ever believed her. Combined with her timid personality, she had long since given up on trying to make others trust her visions. The war brought by the Sun God begins. The Sun God's dependents fight to defend the castle. The Virgin Goddess's dependents fight to conquer it. The fairy from outside wields a cursed sword to fight. Beware. The ruin, Troy, has already been brought in before the battle begins. The ruin makes the soldiers dance, and amidst it, lightning rises. But the greatest vigilance must be paid to the sky. The sky, turned to mist, devours stores and weapons. Because of the sky, the soldiers receive no charity. The leader becomes the sky, and the battlefield descends further into chaos. The sky holds a false sun, and halts the soldiers' movements. The sky questions the resolve of those who reject the sun's blessing. One who has forged their resolve against the sky's question kicks down the cage. That person's resolve propagates, becoming the catalyst to shatter the cage. Those who kick down the cage unleash their grudges. This unleashed grudge becomes the first step toward freedom. Beyond the hardships, the leader falls to the hands of the sky. I don't get the part about lightning rising either, but the most confusing part is the sky in the second half. And what does it mean that the sky turns to mist? Support this fanfic by leaving positive review, comments, and power stones. For advanced chapters, patreon.com/negative translations. Chapter 78, Chapter 78, The Eve of the Decisive Battle. 2,118 words. Want to read ahead? Join my Patreon for just $7 to get early access to all upcoming chapters. Patreon.com/negative translations. Chapter 78, The Eve of the Decisive Battle. The next day, it was finally time to head to the ruins of Shreem Castle. Bell, Tsunayoshi. Do your best. I'll be cheering you on. Yes. Yeah. Bell and Tsuna stood before the city gates, being seen off by Hestia and Reborn. They were going to take a carriage to the ruins. Wealth and the others had already gone ahead, and were waiting for them there. Since this battle would be broadcast live via divine mirrors set up all across Ora Rio, Hestia and the others would be able to watch the war game unfold. Fight with your dying will, Bell. If you lose, I'll kill you myself. Can't you just give him a normal send-off for once? Reborn aimed his gun at Bell, his voice laced with a lethal threat. Bell shrieked. Hestia furiously chewed Reborn out for threatening Bell right before the biggest battle of his life. Soon, it was time for the carriage to depart. Well, we're off. With those words, Bell and Tsuna presented their travel permits to the gate guards and stepped outside the city walls. After a day of rocking in the carriage, night had fallen by the time Bell and Tsuna arrived near the ruins of Shreem Castle. Wealth, Mikoto, and their helper Ryo were already waiting for them on standby. The three had set up a small camp. Mikoto was doing some light training, Wealth was maintaining his weapons, and Ryo was standing quietly with her eyes closed. Yo! We've been waiting. Sir Sawada told us you were training outside the city. So, how are the results? Did you actually get stronger? Yeah. I did, but... Actually. Seeing Bell's hesitant expression, Wealth and Mikoto tilted their heads in confusion. Gathering his resolve, Bell confessed the brutal truth of what his training had entailed. Are you serious? No matter how you look at it, that's impossible. It's not a lie. I saw it myself. Hearing the details of Bell's training, Wealth and Mikoto looked utterly bewildered. But when Tsuna confirmed it was the truth, and knowing neither Bell nor Tsuna were the type to lie about something like this, they had no choice but to believe it. Come to think of it, Tsuna mentioned you guys were training too, right? Yeah. Thanks to that, I managed to bump my status up a little. And I was able to fully acclimate to my ranked-up vessel. When Bell asked, both Wealth and Mikoto answered with confidence regarding their own results. But our opponent is the Apollo Familia. We can't afford to let our guard down. If we want to win, we have to bet everything on Tsuna's plan. Whether it succeeds or not depends on Lilisuk. Is she going to be okay? We won't know until tomorrow. Right now, all we can do is believe in Lily. Right. Yeah, you're right. Though Lily was a member of their familia, she wasn't present at the camp. Strangely, no one brought up why she was missing. Sometime later, Wealth went back to maintaining Bell's weapons, and Mikoto resumed her drills. Ryo. Mr. Sawada. Tsuna approached Ryo, who was still standing with her eyes closed. Hearing her name, she opened her eyes and turned to look at him. Thank you for really coming. Lord Hermes asked me to, but I also cannot forgive the Apollo Familia's methods. Thanks. Save your thanks until after we win this battle. Besides, the battle has already begun. What do you mean? It's not uncommon for factions to launch night raids to whittle down the enemy's fighting strength before a war game. In fact, we were ambushed before you arrived. What? Are you guys okay? There are no issues. We repelled them all. As expected of a level 4. Even though she had retired, Tsuna was reminded once again that Ryu was a level 4 adventurer who had survived countless deadly battles. So you're keeping watch now? Yes. I'm searching for presences to ensure no further attacks slip through. Want me to take over for a bit? This much is no trouble at all. More importantly, you and Ms. Arde are the keys to winning against the Apollo Familia tomorrow. You need to be in perfect condition. Did they tell you about the plan? Yes, from those two. It's quite the reckless strategy you've come up with, but against an opponent like this, we have to go to such lengths if we want to win. Above all else, it's meaningless unless Mr. Cranel executes it. I see. Sorry for not telling you about the plan myself. You made the right choice, even if it was just a result of circumstances. If you had discussed it at the pub, there was a very real possibility the plan could have leaked to the Apollo Familia through the customers. I guess you're right. Speaking of the pub, it reminded me of something. Just who is that baby, reborn, who was with you? Ever since that incident, Rhea had been curious about Reborn's true identity, but being on shift meant she hadn't had the chance to ask. Now that they had a moment of peace, she decided to probe. Those movements, the technique to accurately target a vital point. That isn't the skill of a normal person. Whether he's the world's strongest or not, I don't know, but I don't believe his claim of being a hitman was a lie either. Well, that's. I highly doubt this is the case, but is he from Evolus? No. But I guess you're not entirely wrong about him being dangerous either. What do you mean? It's true that Reborn isn't normal. But he has absolutely nothing to do with Evelus, who killed your friends. I swear that on my life. Reborn is my home tutor. What? Ria was completely taken aback. She had never expected Suna to be Reborn's student. I thought he was awfully accustomed to combat, but even so. Ria could accept White Suna, despite being level 1, possessed such incredible battle instincts, but she also knew that alone couldn't fully explain his absurd strength. Who? Just who in the world are you people? I'm sorry. I can't tell you. I see. Are you sure? I might actually be from Evelus, you know. It hasn't been long, but I know you aren't the type of person to tell a lie like that. Besides, I'm also in a position where I can't reveal my true identity to the public. Ria was currently a wanted fugitive by the guild. In terms of keeping secrets, she and Suna were in the same boat. It wasn't her place to pry any further. Now the only question is whether Mr. Cranel can defeat their captain. About that. What? When Suna elaborated on the details of Bell's training regimen, Ria's eyes went wide in disbelief. That's impossible. Even if he's special, to achieve that much in such a short time. Reborn trained him. He did. But even so, for a mere 7 days of training to yield such results. Reborn can do it. But like I said before, his training is so hellish you literally feel like you're dying. Actually, it was so bad Bell has PTSD from it now. Thank goodness Seer isn't here. Suna breathed a massive sigh of relief as Seer's face flashed across his mind. The truth was, Seer had feelings for Bell. The fact that she constantly made him boxed lunches was proof enough. While she usually acted like the most demure and polite of the hostess of fertility waitresses, she was utterly terrifying when angered. Ryu and the others had made a silent pact: whatever happens, absolutely never make Seer mad. After finishing his conversation with Ryu, Suna walked over to Welf, who was busy maintaining weapons. You're really putting your back into it. Obviously. Look who we're up against. I forged some magic swords, too. We were short on time so I could only make 2, but we have to play every card we have if we want to up our chances of winning. But didn't you vow never to make magic swords? You heard from Tsubaki. Yeah. Not the reason why, though, just that you have the power to make really strong ones. Suna was curious why Welf, who had sworn off making them, suddenly forged magic swords, but he politely refrained from pressing the issue. I hate magic swords. Sensing Suna's unspoken question, Welf began to explain. The magic swords I forge are called Kratzo's magic swords. They possess a destructive power several times greater than normal ones. Kratzo. A fallen family of noble blacksmiths. It's my family name, too. Wait. You're a noble. I've already cut ties with them. My ancestor, Kratzo I, was gravely wounded while protecting a spirit from a monster a long time ago. The spirit saved his life by giving him its blood. As a side effect, he gained the ability to forge magic swords. A spirit. Hearing the word spirit, Suna recalled the corrupted entity they had fought on the 59th floor. But listening to Welf's story, he realized not all spirits were evil like that one. Even though my family possessed the blood of the first, no one inherited the spirit's power for a long time. But several generations ago, when a Kratzo received a Falna, a skill to forge magic swords manifested. That triggered a chain reaction. Other blood relatives received Falna and successfully mass-produced magic swords. They sold them to the kingdom, and the Kratzo family fell into depravity. Why? The kingdom used the magic swords as tools of war. Thanks to the swords, the kingdom won every battle. Due to those achievements, the Kratzos gained noble status and started doing whatever they pleased. They completely forgot their pride as blacksmiths. They drowned in their power. Exactly. But the kingdom and the Kratzos paid the price for their arrogance. Price. They used the magic swords to destroy the lands where the elves and spirits lived. Because of that, the elves held a deep grudge against the kingdom, and the spirits hated the Kratzos. In the end, we even lost the ability to make magic swords. Did the angry spirits take the power back? Probably. After that, the Kratzos couldn't make magic swords anymore, and the kingdom, which had relied entirely on their power, suffered a crushing defeat in war. The kingdom pushed all the blame onto the Kratzos, and the family was ruined. But if the spirit took the power back, how come you can forge them? Beats me. But once my family found out I had the talent for it, they demanded I make them. All to reclaim the lost glory of the Kratzo family. So they just wanted to use your power so they could do whatever they wanted again. Yeah, so I left the country and came to Rio. But even here, people only approached me because they knew I could forge Kratzo's magic swords. Tsubaki told me. A lot of adventurers die because they rely too much on magic swords. She's right. No matter how powerful a magic sword is, it'll eventually shatter if you keep using it. If you ask me, that ain't a weapon. A weapon is a wielder's other half. No matter what kind of hopeless situation you're in, your weapon must never betray you. That's why you hate them. I hated them so much that I swore I would never forge one again, no matter what. Even when Lady Hephaestus told me to stop weighing my pride against my friends. But when I saw you throw away your pride without hesitation to save Lilisuk, I made up my mind. I decided I'd forge magic swords to save my friends. I feel kinda bad now, knowing you had to make such a heavy resolve. Knowing the sheer weight of Wealth's determination, Suna felt guilty that he was preparing to head into the war game, while keeping his own true power a secret. Your mindset isn't wrong. You can't get stronger if you're always clinging to the power of someone stronger than you. And more importantly, people who do that are no different from the fools who drowned in the power of magic swords. Besides, you're using your power properly when it counts, so hold your head up high. Thanks. Support this fanfic by leaving positive review, comments, and power stones. For advanced chapters, patreon.com/negative-translations. Chapter 79, Chapter 79, Sun God. 1178 words. Want to read ahead? Join my Patreon for just $7 to get early access to all upcoming chapters. Patreon.com/negative-translations. Chapter 79, Sun God. The next day. The day of the war game. It's getting lively. Of course it is. For the entertainment-starved gods, there's no event more thrilling than this. Reborn and Hestia had arrived at the 30th floor of Babel. Countless gods were gathered here, eagerly awaiting the start of the war game. In one corner, a betting pool had already been set up to wager on the victor. Gambling, huh? Think I'll join in. Hold on a second. A baby shouldn't be gambling. More importantly, you don't even have any money. I do. Reborn reached into his suit and pulled out a small brown pouch. He untied the knot, slipped his left hand inside, and pulled out a single Valis coin to show her. Why do you have Valis? Or rather, how? When I was wandering around Rio gathering intel, some people kindly donated to me. There are people like that. Wow, there really are kind souls out there. Yeah. They were some sketchy-looking guys hanging around a bad part of town, but after we had a little chat, they gave me every last coin they had while crying their eyes out. Hold on a minute. No matter how you slice it, that's extortion. Hestia had honestly thought some kind strangers had taken pity on a baby, but learning it was blood money he had essentially mugged off some thugs, she shrieked in protest. Relax. If I win the bet, I'll give half the winnings to your familia. I owe you one for taking care of Tsuna. I don't want it. I refuse to accept dirty money. Even if they were a dirt-poor familia, Hestia hadn't fallen so low as to accept money won by gambling stolen funds. The day has finally come, Hestia. Apollo. Suddenly, a blonde male god wearing a laurel wreath appeared before them. Hestia immediately glared at him. This was Apollo, the head of the Apollo Familia, and the mastermind behind this entire ordeal. Regardless of gender, once he set his sights on someone, he possessed a terrifying, obsessive tenacity to claim them, even if they fled to the ends of the earth. His twisted, overwhelming love had earned him the alias of Phallus, tragic love, among the other gods. For the record, he swung towards men. I'm so excited to finally witness the moment your familia is trampled underfoot, and my beloved Bell becomes mine. We'll see about that. You won't know until we fight. I don't need to fight to know the outcome. It seems you've scraped together a few new members, but they're nothing more than a ragtag rabble. They are absolutely no match for my familia. After all, we are on an entirely different level than you. Different level? That's big talk coming from a small fry. What was that? Apollo's arrogant smirk instantly vanished at Reborn's words. It's the truth. The only people you ever target are members of Familius you know for a fact are beneath you. You don't have the guts or the resolve to pick a fight with anyone stronger. Simply put, you're just a cowardly, petty god who gets off on looking down at people weaker than you. It seems this non-combatant of yours lacks proper education, Hestia. He clearly lacks the appropriate respect for the divine. Respect? Why the hell would I respect you? First of all, I ain't part of her familia. And second, I have zero intention of ever serving under a god. You little brat. What's wrong? If you've got something to say, spit it out. Aren't you on a different level? Fine. I shall educate you personally. Don't make me laugh. Gah. As Apollo let his irritation show and stepped forward, Reborn lashed out with a vicious kick. Never in his wildest dreams did Apollo expect a mere baby, one who didn't even possess a fauna, to wield such absurd physical strength. Unable to react, Apollo was sent flying. I'll be the one educating you. Wait, what are you doing, Reborn? Hestia screamed in panic. She hadn't anticipated Reborn would straight up assault a god. The surrounding deities stared in wide-eyed disbelief. He ran his mouth about educating me. So I educated him back. That's not education. That's just plain violence. This is how I do things. Despite Hestia's frantic reprimands, Reborn showed not a single shred of remorse. Why, you bastard? Do you honestly think you can do this to me and get away with it? Huh? I can't hear you. Apollo clutched his stomach and glared venomously at Reborn. Feigning deafness, Reborn cupped his right hand to his ear and leaned forward, prompting Apollo to repeat himself. Do you think you can do this to me and get away with it? You're too loud. Guh. This is completely unreasonable. The moment Apollo raised his voice, Reborn mercilessly kicked him again. This time, his foot connected squarely with Apollo's face, sending the sun god skidding across the floor once more. The gods gasped in sheer horror as Reborn casually battered a deity for doing exactly what he asked. Jaya. The agonizing pain was too much. Apollo lay face down, clutching his cheek as he writhed in agony. I told you, you're too loud. Gah. As a finishing blow, Reborn dropped from the air, driving his heel right into Apollo's solar plexus. The added momentum from the fall increased the strike's power, and even Apollo finally stopped twitching, falling completely unconscious. All right. He's quiet now. Are you the devil? He knocked a god unconscious. Hey, even I can't laugh at this. What the hell is with that kid? That's way too messed up. Witnessing a baby render a god unconscious right before their very eyes, Asphi, Hermes, and Loki were left utterly horrified and repulsed. Guess I'll just toss him in the dungeon. Are you trying to commit deicide? Deicide was the ultimate taboo in the lower world. Strictly speaking, gods couldn't die. If their physical vessel suffered fatal damage, their arcanum would forcefully heal the body, but they would be instantly repatriated to heaven, permanently banned from ever descending again. Thus, forcing a god to return to heaven for any reason was tantamount to deicide. Even Ryu, who had ruthlessly slaughtered the members of Evolus for revenge, had never dared to lay a hand on their patron deities. Yet Reborn had not only knocked a god out cold, he was casually talking about feeding him to monsters in a room full of other gods. Hestia felt genuine terror toward the infant hitman. You just don't get it, Hestia. It's not a crime if you don't get caught. Don't say something so outrageous. And you did it in front of a dozen gods, you're already caught. Good point. Guess I'll have to silence the witnesses. Please, for the love of the gods, just behave yourself. Support this fanfic by leaving positive review, comments, and power stones. For advanced chapters, patreon.com/negative translations. Chapter 80, Start. 1030 words. Want to read ahead? Join my Patreon for just $7 to get early access to all upcoming chapters. Patreon.com/negative translations. Chapter 80, Start. While the gods were in an uproar over Reborn knocking Apollo unconscious, Hestia sat in her seat, while Reborn sat cross-legged on the table, waiting calmly. Good grief, you really are. What's the problem? I'm not a part of your familia. You won't get into trouble. I'm already in trouble. Because word had gotten out that Hestia was acquainted with a lunatic who assaulted gods, the surrounding deities were deliberately keeping their distance from her. Hestia felt incredibly awkward and isolated. You really pulled a stunt like that on a god. If Apollo's dependents find out, you're in for a world of hurt. Hephaestus. Take. Just as Hestia was wallowing in her misery, a red-haired woman wearing an eye patch over her right eye and a black-haired man dressed in ancient, plain clothes, a kentui and trousers, approached her. The red-haired woman was Hephaestus, the goddess of forging and head of the Hephaestus familia that Welf had previously belonged to. She was also Hestia's close friend from their days in heaven. The black-haired man was Takamikazuchi, the god of martial arts and head of the Takamikazuchi familia, which Mikoto had transferred from. Like Hephaestus, he had known Hestia since heaven, and currently worked at a different branch of the Jagamarakuen food stalls. Friends of yours? Yeah. Hephaestus and Takamikazuchi. My friends from the divine realm. I see. I am Reborn. An acquaintance of Hestia's. I'm not her dependent, so don't get the wrong idea. You seem to dislike the idea of becoming a dependent. Do you hate gods? Nah, it's just that there's only one person who gets to give me orders. I have no intention of serving under anyone else's banner, that's all. What's with this kid? He looks like a baby, but he speaks like a grown man. As Reborn spoke, the image of the ninth boss of the Vongala familia, Vongala Nono, flashed through his mind. Hephaestus and Takamikazuchi felt a profound sense of dissonance. It was impossible to reconcile Reborn's mature, experienced words with his infant appearance. Thank you, both of you, for helping me out. Don't mention it. I would have scolded you if you'd just sat back and done nothing. I nearly got your dependents killed. As far as we're concerned, this still doesn't fully repay our debt. Besides, it's too early to relax. You may have bolstered your ranks, but the enemy still outnumbers and outclasses you. Your overwhelming disadvantage hasn't changed. Not a problem. I trained Bell specifically to overturn that overwhelming disadvantage. Hearing Hephaestus's warning, Reborn simply smirked confidently. Besides, the Hestia familia has him. 30 minutes before the start of the war game. Near the ruins of Shreem Castle. I knew this from the start, but hearing it again really makes you realize this is a massive, do-or-die gamble. We've prepared contingencies in case the plan fails, so it won't mean instant defeat if things go wrong. Our victory condition is to defeat their captain. All Mr. Cranel has to do is achieve that. Bell, leave the rest to us and fight to your heart's content. Yeah, got it. Suna and the others were going over their final confirmations. By the way, Ryu. Are you really okay with this? Using Kratzo's magic swords. Looking at the two magic swords Welf had forged, Suna remembered the story of the elves' homeland being destroyed by them. He worried that wielding the cursed blade would bring up painful memories for her. I don't mind. To me, there is nothing more important than saving a friend. I see. Thanks. I'm really glad you're here with us, Rio. Please don't say things like that right before the final battle. It throws off my rhythm. Suna's earnest gratitude caused Rio to frantically avert her eyes. Despite the mask she wore to hide her identity, she couldn't completely conceal the furious blush spreading across her face. Hey, does this mean? That certainly seems to be the case. Ms. Rio, since when? It is a misunderstanding. I harbor no such impure feelings. Welf, Mikoto, and Bell instantly picked up on the fact that Rio was highly conscious of Tsuna. Rio desperately tried to clear the misunderstanding. Impure feelings? What do you mean? Please don't ask me that. Why? This is gonna be a rough road. To think that even Ms. Rio. Watching Tsuna's utter obliviousness to Rio's flustered reaction, Welf realized her feelings were completely one-sided. Belle, meanwhile, was simply shocked to see the usually cool and collected Rio lose her composure so spectacularly. I understand your pain entirely, Lady Rio. How many times have I felt the exact same way? Please do not pity me. The moon Mikoto loved, Takamikazuchi, was just as dense as Tsuna and completely oblivious to her feelings. Because of this, Mikoto felt an intense surge of kinship with Rio. But Rio, mortified by the unsolicited sympathy, instantly snapped back at her. 30 minutes later. It's about time. Back on the 30th floor of Babel, Hermes checked his pocket watch and confirmed that it was time for the war game to begin. All right, Aurenas. Permission to invoke the power. Permission granted. Hermes spoke toward the ceiling, and for some reason, Aurenas' voice, who was supposed to be in the underground altar, echoed through the room. Instantly, floating mirrors materialized inside Babel, and all throughout the streets of Ora Rio, projecting a crystal-clear image of the ruins of Shreem Castle. These were the divine mirrors. Artifacts capable of displaying events happening far away, and the only manifestation of arcanum permitted in the lower world. Bell. Fight with your dying will, Bell. The scene shifted back to the outskirts of the ruins of Shreem Castle. The heavy, resonating strike of a gong echoed across the battlefield, signaling the start of the conflict. Let's go. Yeah. Right. Yes. Understood. Following Tsuna's command, who was already in hyper-dying will mode, the group charged forward to conquer the ruins of Shreem Castle. Support this fanfic by leaving positive review, comments, and power stones. For advanced chapters, patreon.com/negative translations. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Novels Wonderland.